get ready to give a killer presentation in English. This video is ideal if you want good phrases to move smoothly from one section to another and really make your presentation flow. This is also ideal if you want to sound authentic and conversational in your tone and really connect and engage with your audience. I'll show you 8 essential parts of a presentation in English from start to finish. And I'll give you extra tips to deliver a really top presentation in English. So let's get going. So we normally don't just launch into our presentation in English. First, we want to say hello and greet the audience. To sound really natural in English, I recommend saying a sentence like this. Hi everybody, thank you so much for joining this morning or this afternoon. I hope everyone is having a good day so far. And this next part is optional, but you could also acknowledge other people's busy schedules by saying a phrase like this. I know everyone is busy, so I'll be mindful of time. And then to get down to real business, say a sentence like this. Are we ready to start? Are we? Here's a nice, simple phrase that you can use to introduce the topic of your presentation in English. Today, I'm going to talk about the topic. But to make it sound extra natural and really flow, I recommend adding these little words at the beginning. Great, so today I'm going to talk about And it's possible in your presentation in English that you're not the only speaker. So if you need to introduce that another person will be speaking later, say this. Later on, you'll also hear from the person's name, who will be discussing whatever topic. If you think that's a bit of a complex sentence to remember on the day of your presentation in English, here's an alternative, simple sentence. The person's name will also be speaking later about the topic. By the way, quick thing, I'm guessing if you're watching this video, it's because you need to speak English at work. Just to let you know, that's my speciality. So if you want more tips, please follow my channel or even check out my website for more resources. Okay, back to your presentation in English. Okay, you've said hello, you've introduced the topic. Now it's time to get to the real stuff, the real content. So say a phrase like this. Let's start with, or let's start by. And now I'm going to tell you the difference between those two expressions. You'll say, let's start with something. For example, let's start with last year's report. But we say, let's start by, and then we use an action. For example, let's start by discussing the numbers from last year. I'll give you several phrases here that you can use to move from one point to the next point to the next point when you are talking during your presentation in English. Now I'd like to show you something, the numbers. Next, let's take a closer look at something. This picture. Moving on, I'm going to share another thing, a document, for example. And presumably, at some point, you will need to make your final point. So here is a phrase that you can use. Finally, I'd like to, and now you can complete that sentence depending on your needs. For example, finally, I'd like to talk about a topic or discuss something. And pay attention here because it's not discuss about, it's discuss a topic, discuss the numbers. You could also say, reflect on something. For example, finally, I'd like to reflect on the numbers. It's the only example I can think of, the numbers. So when you want to start concluding your overall presentation, it's quite typical and natural in spoken English to make a reference to time, kind of like an excuse to stop talking. For example, I'm conscious of the time, so I'll finish with some key takeaways from today. But if that's not necessary for your particular presentation in English, you can just say this. To wrap things up, here are some key takeaways from today. Okay, if you need to ask anybody for questions or comments, I'm gonna give you a really simple phrase here. Are there any questions or comments? Easy, right? And if there's some silence, some people are being shy, you can encourage them with a phrase like this. Please feel free to contribute, or please feel free to ask me anything. And to say goodbye, let's keep it simple but effective. Thank you all for your time today. And if you had a really good time, you can add an expression like this. It's been a pleasure talking to you. And if you want to be extra nice and professional, you can also say this. I hope it was valuable for you. And by the way, in case you're passing on the presentation to another speaker, use a phrase like this. Now I'll pass you over to another person. And that's it. You've done your presentation in English. Congratulations. But keep watching, because now I want to share with you just some quick tips to implement to give a really good presentation in English. Number 1, speak slowly. This allows you more time to think and more time to create really good sentences. Number 2, memorize key phrases, but not the entire presentation. I don't recommend trying to remember word for word everything you're planning on saying. Key expressions are fantastic, but I definitely recommend making bullet points at home and practicing speaking fluently with them in advance. Well, actually, number 3 was kind of leading on to that. Practice is my last tip. This is really important to build up your confidence for your presentation in English and to make sure that you are super prepared and you know exactly what to expect. Exactly, or as much as you can. So follow these tips and use these phrases, and you really are going to communicate effectively in your presentation in English. If you do speak English at work, I offer lots of help and resources to prepare your English. So follow this channel, check out my website for extra resources, and why not follow me on other social media platforms, and I can really help you to get your English in top shape for speaking in professional situations. So thank you so much for watching, and good luck with your presentation in English.